I've got a rather energized urge to tell a little story about the purchase of a film I truly love. May not be my #1 favorite of the year, but it is a strong favorite regardless. Set in place after that comforting double feature, attended after a lengthy break from those particular places. The feelings that followed me since my magical time at the cinema only ever strengthened by the time the shared experience of my irreplaceable grandmother came to be. I just love the exciting feelings that circulate a repeat viewing with someone close to me that hasn't seen the film yet. In fact, I want to stress some potential here. If you have a loved one that just happened to miss out on Licorice pizza, don't tell them anything. Don't even show them the cover. Every single reveal that emerges in a natural running time functions as a wonderful surprise on all levels for anyone who appreciates the somewhat showy yet still underplayed magic of old school cinema. Repeat viewings solidify those initially surprising elements as lovely treats that you're more than eager to return to, especially if accompanied by a special someone, since they taste even better when shared with someone you love. Anyway, you get the point. I love the film, so it's a must-have in my collection. As a fan of the film, and even more so the filmmaker, it only makes sense to support the project when possible. I'm not a fan of rushing in any case, however. When it comes to expanding my physical collection, I've got a rather calm and collected approach. No need to rush out as soon as the film's released. Probably not even going to rewatch it that soon. So I'm happy to wait for a deal, or the right time, which usually arrives when the deals arrive. Although this time around, as soon as the film arrived on the shelf, I happened to pass by every single time I entered the supermarket, so did my craving to acquire it and rewatch it as soon as possible. That glorious physical copy of the film continued to sit on that shelf for a day or two, since a strong craving isn't enough to make me rush out. I try to be rational and keep my priorities in check. But then, all of a sudden, on that particular night, despite my mind firmly dismissing the craving for a rush, my heart went against all odds and started rushing with the sort of energy you could never anticipate, but bear to witness regardless when falling in love. Throwing out all your passive conceptions about the stability of the body and mind straight out the window, for the sake of satisfying that sudden rush and finally reconciling in a full thrust towards true happiness. I then peek at the clock and notice that I've only got around 20 minutes before the store closes for the night. So naturally, I followed the voice of my heart.
Our love is a lie, and so we begin, foolishly laying our hearts on the table, stumbling in. Our love is a flame, burning within. Now and then, firelight will catch us, stumbling in. Wherever you go, whatever you do, you know these reckless thoughts of mine are following you. I'm falling for you, whatever you do, 'cause baby you've shown me so many things that I never knew. Whatever it takes, baby, I'll do it for you. Our love is a lie, and so we begin, foolishly laying our hearts on the table, stumbling in.
There I was, rejoicing, back at home with the one. I didn't even mind that the cover wasn't perfectly aligned, or that the paper sleeve wasn't rendered quite perfectly, since this was the only available copy of the film in the store. The cute clerk reassured me that was the case. So So this was the only one, the right case, at the right moment in time. I wasn't even bothered by the fact that another clerk tore off the security tag rather violently, ripping a part of the protective plastic. The actual sleeve and case were unscathed though, and an adorable-looking Cooper Hoffman was revealed. So the sensibilities of my OCD were thrown away with that bit of plastic too, in favor of this flavorful bit of sentimentality that truthfully made me tear up. Not too long after, I had the pleasure of rewatching this cinematic gem, this time with my irreplaceable mother, experiencing my third viewing of the film, and the fifth film I watched during this stay in England. A stay that was meant to be, in spite of all the bumps I had to drive over in order to get to a spot of comfort and stability. So is that all this is going to be? Just a little story about the purchase of a film I truly love that's on a scale of excitement no one else is going to comprehend unless they take a little trip inside my head. I mean, hopefully what I create does provide somewhat of a peek into whatever's happening in this crazy old thing of mine. So, what is happening in there right about now? My love for this film is definitely circulating in there right about now. So let's have a quick rundown of what I loved and will continue to love. The look of the film, the sound of the film, and the emotions that ooze out of both in a lovable rhythm through the magical flow of cinematic glory, which can be said for pretty much any film that solidified a spot in the ever-expanding list of my favorites. What entices me and ultimately allows for love to flow with this particular film is, as with any other film, relative to whatever surrounds my life at that specific moment in time. Why am I dancing so much around such a simple foundation of just wanting to talk about whatever currently excites me in regards to this film? Licorice pizza, as genuine as throwbacks can get. Genuine being the key word there, as it encapsulates the very core of this comfortingly free-flowing, yet not so aimless wonder. I've become quite fond of the general 70s culture being encapsulated in music and film. Definitely feeling the appeal of the feel of the era that's simply too iconic to die off. Hollywood's definitely been banking on the nostalgia factor in recent years, and I'm all for it. Just as excited to see the likes of Paul Thomas Anderson and Richard Linklater reminiscing of the good old days as I was to see our precious Tobey Maguire popping into the well-deserved limelight of nostalgic yet timeless value. Curious how a time I never lived through can be as engaging for me as if I did, and somehow even knew it all too well. Call it pseudo-nostalgia or whatever you want, but for me, the fact that these sensations call so true to me outlines perhaps the most significant achievement of these retrospective journeys. Banking on the nostalgia, but being so authentic with the approach that the rose-tinted filters aren't even looked through. All the good, bad, and everything in between emerges into something real. Something so real, in fact, that it transcends the usual nostalgic descent into shallow meandering. Instead running firmly into the craft of a portrait that extends its appeal for further generations and thus instantly solidifying itself as timeless. What else do I love? In summation, to keep it short and sweet, just like the film feels, as it definitely doesn't feel like it lasts over 2 hours. But what is 2 hours and 30 minutes when you're falling in love? I certainly fell in love with the way this film is structured. Everything and everyone gets to breathe in a natural sequence of events that unfold as pleasantly as you'd imagine them to be. I love the uncompromised audacity, the pure humor, the subtle stakes as well as the not-so-subtle desires. I love Cooper Hoffman already, carefully tuning his natural talent and underplaying it just right. naturally so for this character. His very first character in a feature film, no less. I'm sure his father would be proud. I love the honesty in everything that's captured. I love that it's all filmed on beautiful celluloid 35mm film stock and what that means for cinema in general. So I love every single frame. Although any frame that features the infinitely attractive Emily Althouse means a little something extra to me. I love every single cameo. Although John C. Reilly's tiny cameo might have been my favorite given the impact it had on me in spite of how brief it was. I really love that he was all dressed up as a monster I hold a soft spot for, even though I still haven't seen any of his films. I love the attention to detail. My mother mentioned that my grandmother applied the exact same technique of splitting when doing her eyelashes back in the late 70s. Gotta love when details like that are caught. I love the wonderful soundtrack that blends seamlessly between the preservation of the culture, the build-up of each respective scene, and the overall excitement over how great it sounds. It really does sound great. In fact, it's been playing throughout this whole time. Such a flavorful selection.
'Cause Lennon's on sale again. See the mice in their million hordes, from Ibiza to the Norfolk Broads. Rule Britannia is out of bounds. To my mother, my dog and clowns. But the film is a sad thing more, 'cause I wrote it 10 times or more. It's about to be writ again, as I ask you to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the lawman beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if he'll ever know who's in the best-selling show. Is there life on Mars?
So in actual summation, I love a lot and there's a lot to love. When it comes to what inspires these feelings, I really could go on endlessly. But I have to stop myself somewhere and let people have their own experiences. Although I hope anyone who truly deserves to have their own little experience gets the opportunity to have one, regardless of what they may or may not stumble upon.
You want, then you better be lovable. If it's smiles you want, better get to smiling. If it's good times you want, baby, get your good times now. Now, now, baby, don't you wait too long. Oh, mama, don't you wait too long. Oh, honey, don't you wait too long. 'Cause tomorrow may not be your day. Tomorrow may not be your day. Tomorrow may not be your day. You know we all have our sad times, and then again we all have a glad time. But everybody in this whole round world need a friend, a friend, a friend. Somebody just to help you through. Oh, baby, don't you wait too long. Oh, mama, don't you wait too long. Oh, sugar, don't you wait too long. Be your day. Tomorrow may not be your day. Tomorrow may not be your day. on, hammer down, something